Welcome to Own It, the podcast where we talk to real estate thought leaders about embracing your strengths, taking your career to new heights, and owning your future. Hi, I'm your host, Hillary Saunders, co-founder and chief broker officer at Side. And joining me today is my co-host and managing broker for Side in Southern California, Spencer Kroll.
Good day.
Good day, sir. Honestly, I'm so excited to get this podcast off the ground and running. Wouldn't it be interesting if when we kind of got into real estate, your 20 years ago, my 16 years ago, that we had some kind of toolbox, access to a network of industry professionals who had been there, done that we could learn from?
Yeah, back in my day when one had to do that, you actually had to talk to an agent and they had to agree to actually talk to you. And I remember starting and being so afraid to approach anybody like that. Like, why would they want to talk to me?
Well, because you're going to steal their good ideas and go use them as your own and then be their worst competition.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And which is exactly what happened. They gave me their advice and I stole all their ideas. And that's why I'm managing.
So this is the concept of this wonderful podcast, to elevate the industry, learn from those professionals that have already taken a successful career to the next level. We're going to have some amazing guests who have done incredible things, words of encouragement, tips, tricks, things that you can actually do in your own career, or that just may inspire you to take your career to the next or a different level.
Here's the thing. There are podcasts where you listen to them while you're mopping the floor or something. I don't know if you I mop my own floors, Hillary. Maybe you have.
Don't mop my floors, but okay. I do listen to many podcasts while I do other things.
Yeah. It's like I walk in the morning. I would love that somebody says, I want to listen to this podcast. I'm getting useful stuff out of this podcast, which is probably a reason I should not be a host. But that said, that's my goal. I mean, are you with me on that one? Do you feel the same way?
100%. And I really do think that the guests that we have lined up are not only going to knock the socks off our audience with what they've done with their careers or where they're going to go, but also just inspirationally kind humans that do good in the industry. So there's a lot to unpack. So unlike our very long tenured in real estate, our first guest has not been in the industry very long. However, he has hit milestones that industry veterans only dream of. And he also used to hit baseballs.
That is such a cheesy intro, but you know what? I'm going to give you credit for the pun on that one. So there you go.
I think he would appreciate it. So Joey Bergandi is our first guest, who I'm super excited to introduce to everyone. He was not only in 2019 dubbed Agent of the Year for his prior brokerage, he was a San Diego County Top 500 2 years in a row. He's recognized by San Diego Real Producers 30 Under 30. The list goes on and on. In addition, he was on his way to play professional baseball when he was sidelined by an injury. But now, after being a top recognized solo producer in 2019, he has created his own company called Velocity, and it's one of the fastest growing teams in San Diego.
Yeah, what's really cool about that, and I think we want to make a big point of this, is he started as an individual agent, and a lot of agents just do this on their own. A lot of agents maybe form a team, they bring in a buyer's agent or something like that. He's formed a whole company. And the thing which I think is interesting is so many people have pivoted in their careers, but a lot of people have pivoted in a career and then have a mediocre pivot, if that makes sense. He was a star on the field, and he's like a star in real estate. So it's amazing for somebody to really make that change and go all in and really succeed in it, which I think is the most important thing about his story.
And to tie it all off with a nice little bow, in 2022, Velocity is the top 0.2% of realtors in the nation, ranked by Real Trends. 0.2,
not even, so 0, to put this just so you can visualize this, right? 0.2%.
Yeah, it's basically the same odds of me having identical twins, which happened. So there you are.
Wow.
Yes. So without further ado, let's bring on Joey.
He's got nothing on Ron Burgundy other than Ron Burgundy, I think, copied his last name, sort of. So Joey Bergandi, welcome to our wonderful podcast.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Yay! I'm so excited to get into the meat and potatoes of this wonderful, very deep dive discussion. Joey.
Hillary said, let's get to the meat and potatoes. And considering us coming from a vegan who normally would just go to the potatoes, I just think this is already off to some crazy start.
Let's go to the cauliflower steak.
Last night, I had my version of meat and potatoes. It was a vegan meat crumble with potatoes and broccoli. So, it's very hearty. Anyways.
All right, Joey, big question to you after we've already gotten through cauliflower steaks and meat and potatoes and all that stuff. What inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so it was actually my parents. Both my parents were in business. Funny enough, my dad actually had my mom as an employee. And
HR's not on this call, so it's okay.
We're getting there. So it's my dad promoted my mom in order to have a chance to date her, promoted her, asked her out on a date. She ghosted him. So my mom's brilliant. But my parents did very well in business. And it was something I knew that at the end of my baseball career that I could kind of lean on my parents for help and some mentorship. And it started me down this road of finding out the way that I could, one, make people happy, but two, also get paid accordingly. And it was this weird symbiotic relationship of real estate that I learned that I could help people achieve their goals of financial freedom or buying another house or selling a house, but also get compensated pretty fairly for my time.
So you're in it for the money?
No, actually, that's a deep rabbit hole because I can't tell you how many agents get in for the money and then they realize after their first transaction, you're like, that was actually kind of a little warm and fuzzy helping people. Pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm just curious because you're obviously a competitive person, and I'm assuming your parents sound mercenary. At least your dad does on that move. But I'm just curious. Did you have to pivot from "it's not about me, it's about my clients"?
No, I think I was just raised in such a caring, nurturing way that kind of how I am when I'm on the outside. So it's the internal drive of I need to make sure that I can put food on the table, I can support my wife and myself. But it always led from the I'm going to help you approach, and that's the way to get the biggest reward that we found.
So you're internally a psychopath?
Oh, externally too. Ask my team.
Okay, just checking.
But all of us are. I think at this level of business, when you decide to partner with Side, or even in your guys' position, you have to be some level of psychopath because we have huge, audacious goals that most people do not have.
That is fair. Let's talk about those goals. So given your youthfulness and very young age, it shows the skin cream is helping. How was your first year in real estate and how did that translate? Where are you now? What's the journey been like?
Oh yeah. So it took 8 months for me to sell my first house. And I ended up selling a house that was 2.5 hours from where I live because it was the only person that it was answering my calls that had somewhat trust in a 21-year-old with no sales experience to help them buy a house. So it was rough. I mean, I remember calling my TC as soon as I opened escrow and was like, I have no idea what to do. I'm going to call you every morning and just tell me what I need to do. And I was stumbling through that escrow. I got the paycheck. It was something like $6,500. I went and got Post Malone concert tickets, bought my wife a pair of shoes, and I was like, this is great. Paid my rent and all the money was gone. So I pretty quickly had to figure out how to do it again and again and again. And now to where I'm at, it's been like 61 or 62 months that I've consecutively closed a deal in a row. So it's all about those who don't quit, don't lose.
I'm just curious, in that first deal, which sounds really scary if you're calling your TC, did you have, from wherever you were, did you have brokerage support at that time? Or
Wait, time out. Before you answer that, props for you for using a TC.
Oh, yeah.
Virtual high five. Okay,
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect from the brokerage I was at, but are you guys familiar with Deal or No Deal?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
That was my relationship. I would send a question up and I would wait and I would get the answer I didn't want, then I'd have to figure it out.
That's, it's interesting. And Casey and Hillary and I talk about this, where sometimes the best question to ask when someone calls in is, what's the answer you want to hear? Right? Because then we can see if we can work backwards to that. Sadly, a lot of times the answer is no, but that is something. So, all right, so at least you weren't completely blind. I mean, at least you got answers.
Yeah, I got answers, but it was more in the direction of my broker wanted to make sure the deal was getting done. So it was all about getting it done and how to get things resolved, not necessarily what is the best way to transition problem A to solution A, which is a two totally different side, especially in real estate. I mean, in your guys' shoes, the amount of calls that you guys get and answer, I can't believe that you guys have time in between your own ears to relax.
I don't. I make them do it.
No, but seriously though, what kind of shoes did you get your wife?
It was
Mine.
Ultra Boost, some Adidas Ultra Boost, and that was actually a really funny time. So my wife and I, at that time, we would walk around Target for fun, and
It is fun.
not buy anything. We couldn't afford anything, and it was just like, oh, someday we're gonna buy that. And I remember it was like my third or fourth deal. I bought her a Ninja blender because I remember every time we walked by, she's like, oh, I always want one of those. So now I always joke with her. I'm like, why don't you have that taste anymore? I'd much rather buy blenders.
Now since we have kids, going to Target without children, now that's relaxation.
Who needs Disneyland? You have Target.
Wow, I thought my life was empty. This is amazing.
This is also Spencer's therapy session.
Right, well, or I feel good for whatever. This is great. At least I'm feeling decent about myself.
Joey, a question for you though. I mean, you said you closed the deal. You said 65 months in a row. Is that what you said?
62, I believe. 61, 62. I just put another in this morning that will add to that.
All right, so it's kind of like a Roger Maris situation, I guess, at this point. But my question for you, I mean, when did you know that you could do this? I mean, I remember my first deal and thinking, oh man, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do this again, because how do you get the next client? What did you do to propel that? When did you feel like, okay, I got this down?
Yeah, so this is actually a question going to maturity, because at that moment, I thought I was destined for greatness. I was like, if I did this once, I can do this 1,000 times, which took me a couple years to get past that maturity. But it was actually later in my career. I was consistently selling 30 to 35 homes a year. I was at a mom and pop shop, and I kind of hit that ceiling of comfortability, where I kind of fell into, I think, where you're going with that, of kind of like, can I do more? Can I do less? And that actually took when I got my first call from a guy named Brian Aguero about my partnership with Side.
Gotta love that guy.
Love that guy. And he kind of hit me across the face with it. He's like, hey, so are you comfortable being mediocre?
Well, call it like it is, I guess.
And that time it was still ego-based Joey. So I was 25 when we started the conversations. I was like, mediocre, name someone my age doing what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. And kind of realized at that point that there is so much past the quote unquote ceilings that most realtors put themselves in. And that actually led to partnering with Side and building out our brand of Velocity.
That's awesome. Where do your clients come from?
Yeah, so the bulk of them actually come from social media. The social media thing has generated me anywhere from 15 to 20 closed escrows a year, which with an average purchase price of $800, very good on the GCI for something that takes you a couple minutes to do every day.
Okay. I want to know about this because you are, I'm not going to age myself, but let's just say I'm not of the TikTok generation, but I would classify you as that generation. So where and how, just what are you doing on social?
Yeah. So we do 6 reels a week, and then also about 10 stories a day that my team and I are posting, sharing, liking, commenting, all that stuff, but also reaching out to everyone that follows us, which is about 15 outbound messages a day, on top of asking for referrals on social media. So social media for my, let's call it 25 to 35, is a soft close. So many people in our demographic hate the hard close of face-to-face asking for business. So we found out that by messaging people or having them interact with stuff, it's a lot easier to reach in and ask for business than face to face, which blows my mind. I'm direct type A. I'd rather get on a plane, sit in a room with all of you guys and talk and do it that way. But most people in my demographic want to hide behind the phone, and that's how we're able to help them convert.
And you're mentioning social media. Obviously, you're on Instagram where you're talking about the reels and the posts. What else are you on?
You name it. So Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, and of course, Instagram. And then also Workplace. So Workplace is like our internal side Facebook network. So we're pretty active on there as well.
Are you getting a lot of referrals from there, or what type of stuff are you getting?
Yeah, there's actually.
Is there a count behind you?
On this whiteboard, I have the 4 referrals that I have right now, a 500, 1.2, 2.4, and a 1.3 from Workplace that we're currently working.
Nice. I'd like a pair of shoes, just saying, I sort of kind of created it.
No, we actually, the deal in my office for this week, since I'm going out of town on my anniversary trip, if we put one deal in escrow, we're getting 1 suite for Padres tickets.
Now, how much business do you get from MySpace? You didn't mention MySpace, which is my social media, my preferred social media platform.
I think when MySpace came out, I was 9 or I was 8. So at that time, I wasn't very good at lead generating. It was more about adding people to my, what was it, Inner Circle? What was the MySpace thing?
Oh, I don't even know. I think if you were 8 when it came out, you were 9 when it
paper
closed.
round at that point.
It went out of business. Yeah, but you know what I find interesting though, when people talk about posting, and I look at it from another business because I do voiceover and I'm posting on Instagram for my voiceover stuff and starting to do my content calendar for that. And a lot of people say, well, have some personal stuff in there as well as business. Do you segment them? Do you just have one Instagram account? Do you put anything personal on your Instagram account?
Oh, everything's personal. So I always throw in what I eat for dinner, which is a favorite thing because I always tag my wife. So everyone's like, damn, Erica's a good cook. No, I'm the cook. I cook for my wife.
We are not putting this on the podcast, man. No. You want to stay married? We're not putting it on the podcast.
No, I throw my dog in there all the time. If I'm not getting good engagement, I'll throw something up about the weather or San Diego or food or things to do. Because I'll gravitate between 40 or 50 people engaging with my story. So actually clicking on the poll. And if it dips down to 25, I throw in something personal to get it up. And those usually go 75 to 100.
Oh, interesting. Some people are driven by not wanting to fail. Some people are driven by, actually, like they're running away from something. Some people are driven by running towards success. Where do you put yourself on?
I don't like to fail. From baseball, which is funny. I mean, baseball, you get 3 hits out of 10, you're a Hall of Famer. I have such big dreams and aspirations for what I want for myself and my family that I can't fail. So it's not being truly afraid of failing. It's knowing that I can't. So it's working every day so that I don't like lay down at night and go, well, shit. I worked 3 hours today and I played 4 hours of Call of Duty and went golfing. That doesn't happen because I don't give myself the reason to not fail.
Yeah, and when you do that, I mean, are you an affirmations person in the morning, or you just wake up and you're like, I'm just not going to fail, and that's it? You do. So
Daily journal, baby.
So you write down in your journal, what do you spend, about half an hour morning writing in there?
5 sentences. It's simple. It's every day. I am transforming velocity. I sell 40 to 50 homes a year. My team sells 100 homes a year. I will be the best spouse and I will be the best friend. Every day. That's it.
And well, I mean, that's great. I mean, so, those things are all actionable, right? Like what you can do, like, listening and doing those things. I'm going to guess you're metrics based. You kind of like to know, you like measure everything?
Annoyingly. If you asked everyone at Velocity, they'd wish I would be the opposite side and I didn't track anything. Like, for example, I wanted to retire my wife. I also want to have 100 agents across 5 offices, acquisitions department of 50, and we want 600 million in sales a year with 200 flips.
When I was an agent, I was never as driven and never as metric based as what you're talking about for the number of sales you wanted. I mean, I knew what the sales I wanted to have, but I didn't know what the pieces were to get there.
But we also didn't have the tools back then either. Like there's so much data and analytics that we can derive from information now and put into actionable items. I don't think we had that, Spencer.
Well, even with the amount that we had, I wasn't taking advantage of that, right? So like, in comparison, I would be using an abacus instead of a calculator. I didn't use an abacus, but I'm just saying, if you want to compare to what I could have been doing and the way that I actually was operating, and there are always people talking about, showing up and being on your business instead of in your business, right? So I'm just curious in terms of the in and on, because you're an entrepreneur, the numbers that you're talking about are amazing. And I think it's great that you actually have a metric you want to hit. The question I have for you is your personal involvement. I think with your social media, number one, you're social media based. Are you using a virtual assistant, or do you have someone that handles your social media for you? Are you outsourcing your coaching to your agents, or are you doing that yourself? I'm just curious how you break this down to grow your business to the numbers you're talking about.
Yeah. So on the social media side, I have an editor who does 99% of it for me. All I have to do is go into Instagram and hit the post button, which is huge help. The coaching side, I actually coach all my agents one-on-one, bi-weekly or monthly to their choice, following to what metrics they want to follow. And about in versus on, I'm always going to pride myself as leading from the front. Truly at my age and what we're able to do, I'm not going to be the one as the broker of record at the company saying, you got to go door knock or you got to go make your cold calls. I'm in there making them with them. So all morning I work in my business, active escrows, client follow-up, lead generation, all that stuff. And then the afternoon is on the business, which is perfect. My virtual assistant is afternoon only. So we work together on marketing, new referral ideas, new lead ideas. Like right now we're finishing our employee handbook, figuring the way that we're growing. We can't just be like, hey, here's a independent contractor agreement. Please sign this.
Was it tough to kind of step away and get a virtual assistant? And it sounds like you're very involved. I'm just curious for the things that you did end up delegating. Was that difficult?
So here's the answer that I think this is the meat and potatoes that people want to hear if they reach this far. I sell more houses now that I'm less involved.
Okay.
Talk about that.
Oh, hold on. I want to double click on that. You just said now that you're less involved, you actually have sold more.
Yes.
So that's super confident. How did you get to understanding that piece, and what held you back to get here now?
So I'm going to give a shout out to two people. First business manager through my partnership with Syed Javier. Love you to death, man. I hope you listen to this. He started pushing on me that I needed to get out of my own way. And a lot of entrepreneurs that get to this point realize that they want to have their hands in marketing. They want to have their hands in sales. They want to have their hand in conversion training. And you can't, because at the end of the day, what happens? Your own production drops, which last year I did. But my own production dropped, but Velocity sold more homes than we did the prior year. So I realized, wait a second. So if I get out of my way, but I also get out of the agents a little bit, we're going to prosper. We're on pace to 300% grow our business. And that includes Joey doubling what I did. And I'm working half in my current real estate business.
Okay, let's talk elephant in the room, since the larger nationwide media is constantly driving into us almost on a daily basis how down the real estate market is. What's your take on that whole concept then, if you are saying the numbers that you're saying?
Yeah, so I actually got to talk about this at Side by Side. It's all a mindset. You let the market dictate you. If you tell yourself it's a down market or it's a challenging market, it's going to be a down market. It's going to be a challenging market. What we were able to do is find success with clients with an impending need to purchase and show them the projectability of 5 to 7 years. We are not in a market like 2019 that we're looking to turn and burn every 3 years. We are back to kind of that normal cycle that we are buying for long term. You see so many experts saying, well, only buy if you're going to hold for 5 to 7 years. And that freaks out a lot of millennials, because in our youth, that's a lot of time. That's a fourth of our life we're going to spend in that house. But not realizing that as this market kind of resets to a point that there's some neutrality between buyers and sellers, even though there never truly will, it's going to be better in the long run. I mean, best way to look at it, what if a Coke can was still $1? And in 30 years, it's $1. But 100 years ago, it was a penny. So obviously, we're having some slight growth in prices, and that's normal. But the last 3 years really screwed up the mindset for the consumer. So we say, hey, we have no mindset. We make the market and we make it good.
That's a huge takeaway, especially for millennials who need the next fix of Insta or TikTok or whatever. And if you're not going fast enough, it's kind of too slow, right?
Oh yeah.
That's an
But I
interesting.
want to add another thing to that. Because at my prior brokerage, I was the only one thinking like that. And once I partnered with Side and getting into this intense, like top level network that we have here, everyone here thinks that way. We're not having people that are getting defeated by the market, because all of us partners are sitting here talking and we're like, yeah, we're actually up this year. We had a bunch of us that are up right now from Q1 2023, from Q1 2022, or even Q1 2021. So it's also putting yourself around people that have similar mindset, similar drive, to kind of break through what everyone else is achieving.
This is why I always place people in the room that are smarter than me. And that's why I brought on Spencer. So I'll just pat myself on the back for that one.
You want a list of my bonehead moves here?
No. I want to touch really quick on the social piece, because I know you went through a huge kind of, I don't want to say hiccup, because I feel like it was worse than hiccup. Your accounts were hacked, right? Or something where you were suspended.
Yeah, so it's called shadow ban. Effectively, we had some bots going on the account, placing likes, adding followers, that actually got my stories and views from anywhere from 5 to 10,000 views per story to less than 100. And it's such a drive for my business that December 1st, I had to restart my Instagram. I have an awesome mentor and a guy named Neil Dingra, or Neil Home on Instagram, if you guys know him. We were on a Zoom call and he was just like, F it, you got to restart. So had to restart. And I think we're slowly gaining traction. After a month, I was able to get my first client back. I mean, we went from generating 5 to 6 a week to now we're about 5 or 6 a month. But I can't just assume that my number one funnel is going to be back after 2 months of working at it, or 3 months. So it's going to take some time, but I can't let it get in my way. There's no need or no space to have any negativity. It is what it is. I'm still selling homes. My team is still doing great. I've got food on the table, so just keep writing it out.
How do you get over the little voice? I mean, maybe you don't have a little voice. Maybe you're superhuman. Let's talk about that. Maybe you just have, some magical ability, but even if like everything's going really well, then you hit a hurdle. I mean, I'll say me personally, it's still a questionable, oh shit, I don't know if I can do this again, because it was, it takes a lot to get to that level. How do you deal with that voice?
Drugs, alcohol?
No, called therapy. So I've got 2 real estate coaches. One is Workman Success, which is your militant, do A to get B. Other one is David Kesey, and he is more of that mindset coach. So our number one thing is we are unattached from successes and failures. So I could get a call right now, where's my phone, and say, here's a $3 million listing, and I would take it, put it down. It's a success, woohoo, move on. But I could also get a text right now saying, hey, your 5 in escrow are all canceling. Same thing, I'd go, it's a text, woohoo, move on. It's taken 2 months to get here, but the headspace is crazy when you realize that nothing could ever derail you, whether it's good or bad. Truly everything is possible, because there's nothing that could come in that could really take you off your railroad, which is the hardest thing. And it's something that we've been working with our agents here. I've been also working with my wife, having the ability to like disconnect wins and losses to affecting what you want to do every day. It's tough, but it's life-changing.
That's so beautiful. My French fries get cold and I curl into a ball, I mean, it's just so inspiring to hear, okay, I got this call, good or bad. I mean, no matter what, you're still going to have to pick up the phone and make the next phone call, or talk to the next, or put in the next post or something.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Joey, what's your advice for a realtor who is wanting to get to the next level? You could just anything and everything, like to do these things. Don't worry about this other thing. What would you say?
First is remove emotion from your daily life. Do not
don't love your spouse or your kids. That's a good one. Nice.
Yeah, no, but like in the work life, like don't let that bad call derail you. And the second is realize that you can only control what's on your side of the table. So like a home inspection goes bad, that's not your fault. Why are you fretting? That's not the right house. You're avoiding lawsuits and litigation in the future. Move on, go get something better. But yeah, remove emotion from it, control what you can control. That's the two I would say.
What's your therapy for today, Spencer?
That's my therapy. I've got so many things I can't control my dog. I've got so many things I can't control, Hillary.
Oh God. Oh man. Joey, you're an inspiration. I need to go work on my social life, I think. Social media life, that is. I just want to say huge thank you.
Thanks again for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
All
Joey.
right. See you guys.
So he has zero drive, clearly. None.
You know the amazing thing for anything like that, and I think anybody that succeeds, that I know that succeeds, you have a goal in mind, and then you have a metric to see how you're doing it. And so many people will write down, I'm going to sell 20 houses this year. And then you ask, well, how are you going to do that? And they, well, I don't know. I'm just going to sell 20. He just seems so, the metric based, and his attitude is.
There's a huge shout out to just therapy in general, right? Whether it's talk therapy or, colleagues that you talk to or your emotional support dog, whatever it is, like there has to be an avenue, right? To work through the natural anxiety that comes with fear of failure. Yeah. I mean, everybody's got it, even if you lie and say you don't.
Yeah. Well, and coaching, so this therapy, because he mentioned he has, a coach, he has two coaches, I think. And then he says he also has a therapist. And I think, needing to coach is so important. So many people want to do it on their own, and everybody has a coach. Tom Brady is a coach.
One thing that stood out to me, in addition to making sure that he's, talking to his therapist, because I think at the end of the day, we all need therapy at some level, is that he knows that he has to get out of his own way for his team velocity to succeed and to grow. He doesn't need to stand in their way either. He needs to be there as the coach, the mentor, the driver, and let them flourish.
Yeah, and he's, again, taking this plan and putting it into place and listening to the coach and trying to figure out what he has to do next. Social media, where he's talking about, like you mentioned, his social media stuff is obviously where he's growing. But the other thing, too, is something which we spoke about earlier. He was really involved in baseball, was able to make the pivot, and you take that passion that you have for one thing and put it into a passion for another thing. And the other thing, which I'll say, is that his passion actually seems genuine. Like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm doing this now. No, he seems to really get up every day and want to do this.
Yeah. Well, I think one big takeaway that I got was the analytics piece. How you can actually real time see what people are responding to and pivot if needed. Mm-hmm. And that's a cool one, because a lot of times we're 30 days in arrears, or we're looking at things, it's cold information. So real time. But that was a good one. Joey's infectious. And I think it's a testament to, he has passion for what he does. He loves what he does, like we do. I mean, I'm so excited and happy that we get to support partners like Joey out in the business. So,
he talks to other people that are performing at his level. And I, you see, if you back in the traditional brokerage days, you'd see the newer agents hanging out with themselves, talking about how they can't get a deal. And then you'd see one agent hanging out with the more experienced agents and trying to get a part of that mindset, or trying to get a bit of knowledge. So I love the fact that he hangs out with people that perform at his same level.
Absolutely. He had an energy. He does have an energy every day. It just radiates through the podcast microphones, but it's inspirational, and he has nowhere to go but up, which is crazy to think about because he's done so much over the past couple of years. But I'm excited to see when we check in with him in a year's time, maybe, and see what's happened over the last 12 months. That'll be exciting to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see where it goes.
And so if you have any questions for Joey or want to shoot us an email, please email us at ownit@side.com. And we look forward to talking to you.
Well, Hillary, I just want to thank you very much for letting me co-host with you today. It was a lot of fun.
Spencer, it's my pleasure, because anytime I get to hang out with you, it's an amazing day.
Wow, you're ending the podcast with a lie, but I appreciate it.
And we'll see you on the next episode.